What is one country that you will never visit again? Chad. Definitely NTHE most depressing country I have ever been to. Syria. I went before the civil war and it was honestly one of the loveliest places I've ever been. With super nice friendly people. Add to that the food is amazing. It would break my heart to see some of the places now. Haiti. Went on a medical mission. One day was spent at the beach. We got caught in the middle of a protest. I was groped. Several other people were punched. It was terrifying. They only stopped when one of our translators yelled that we were medical workers. We only ended up spending 1 hour at the beach so we wouldn't end up driving back through the same area at night. When we reached that area it was clear of people. A few overturned vehicles were on fire. A UN detail was hanging out in a big armored vehicle with a very large gun on top. I can't imagine how awful it must be now with all of the civil unrest. I want visit my own country if I could GTFO of it. Iran. South Africa. Some random truck rolled up outside of our hotel and got in a shootout for no apparent reason. I walked out after the shooting to see around 7 people dead or at least injured, including our tour guide. At the rate it's going. South Africa. Backpacked around in 2009. From Cape Town to Joburg. And just loved it. Legit my favorite country I traveled in. Because it is so diverse in nature. People. Just about every way. But as things get more dangerous. I'm just not sure if I'll ever get back there. Seeing footage of the riots right now breaks my heart if anyone from South Africa is reading this. By the way, I wish you all the best and hope you stay safe. Women of Reddit. What's the funniest misconception a man had about women that he probably still believes to this day? My ex legitimately thought I could control the sex of the baby via sexual position at conception or eating certain foods. A male classmate who sat behind me kept whispering my name. So I turned around and asked what he needed. He said he had a really important question, but didn't want to seem stupid. At this point, I was still under the impression he was talking about something regarding the class, so I just told him to ask and I'll do my best to answer. He proceeds to ask, a girl's vagina is just like an inverted dick, right? Quote. I was so caught off guard by the question that I never actually gave an answer. My male friend told me that I don't necessarily know what blood looks like. And that when period blood gets soaked up by a pad or tampon it's no longer visible and soaks into the product, losing the blood color. So pads are always white and dry. Not a woman, but I had a friend who got upset because his girlfriend couldn't hold her period in like pee because it's the same hole. Went on a date with a guy whilst on my period. We ended up kissing on the date and he asked if we could do the deed. I told him that I was on my period and didn't really feel up to it. He rolled his eyes and sighed. Can't you just hold it in? I promise it's worth it. I didn't have any words. Just left. Can't think of a dumb comment from a man I personally know. But I do remember reading about a guy in the UK who went viral a few years ago for wanting to know why women have periods and why they can't just hold their bladder instead. Who would we give to aliens if they demanded to see our finest human? It depends. Do we think they are friendly? Or do we think an example will be made by killing our finest human when we present them to the aliens? Okay, I'll go. Edit. I wish to thank everyone for the rewards for such a self-aggrandizing comment. This seems to have blown up a lot more than I would have thought. Again, thanks to everyone for being glad to see me go. I don't want the answer to be Guy Fieri. But the answer is probably Guy Fieri. Sir David Attenborough. I say we return Elon back to them. Danny DeVito. What film scene absolutely destroys you every time? No matter how many times you've seen it. When Jack Nicholson gets lobotomized in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I'm not a crier and I don't feel most of the emotionally charged drama scenes in Hollywood movies, but that made me cry so hard. In so much anger because of the injustice. I may be more calm in my reaction now, but it always gets me. I am tired. Boss scene before the execution in *The Green Mile*. Homeward Bound at the end, where you think Shadow might not be coming home. The end of Wall-E when he loses his personality, loudly crying. Full Monty. Dave. Referring to himself and his weight. Who wants to see this dance? Gene. Me. Dave. I do. They had just been fighting. He spent the whole movie dissing himself. And she comes through with that. It's so tender, honest, and loving. When Ophelia enters her father's kingdom in Pan's Labyrinth. Big bawling, ugly crying for that scene every time. If anyone hasn't seen that movie, you must. One of the best films I've ever enjoyed. If you ever bullied someone, do you still sometimes think about how the person is now doing affected by your bullying? What did you do? I wasn't directly involved, but I stood by as my brother and my, at the time, best friend bullied some poor kid one recess in 4th grade. He ended up moving away not long after. I still feel bad about it. That former best friend and the rest of my friend group ended up bullying me throughout middle school, then starting a rumor that led into high school and got to the point where people were calling me homophobic slurs based on a false rumor. I'm not sure I deserved all of that for being bystander. And I'm sure those people don't give two shits about how badly I'm doing. They never did. I once bashed an autistic kid into a locker because he wouldn't stop trying to talk to me. I regret it. And I feel bad about it, but it doesn't really have a lasting effect considering we are friends now. We talk about Nintendo and play Smash together. 1000%. I unfortunately have a pretty bad personality disorder and struggle greatly controlling my emotions. Frequently sabotage relationships in fear of abandonment, etc. Had this girl in a summer class when I was around 13. Was super sweet and I think liked me. Had an episode where I said something very mean to her. I wish I could recall what, but it wasn't warranted and immediately hurt her. She got up and walked away without saying anything or reacting, and I never saw her again. Still tears me up inside. Why did I do that? I was on both ends of the spectrum. It's amazing what nasty little savages we truly are when you think about the bullying pecking order in school. The Nazi concentration camp system begins to make a lot more sense. I've had the opportunity to meet my bullies in the post-scholastic world, and they apologized and honestly expressed embarrassment for their action. I've met people I had bullied and felt the same shame. What's interesting to me is that the bullies I've met, along with myself, didn't come from good families, and a lot of them weren't actually popular kids. In fact, the popular kids did come from good families, were nice people, and attractive, had a thing. Yeah, I remember them. I was able to find one of them years later and apologize for what I did when I was still in school. And she accepted my apology. I didn't have the chance to apologize to the others, but just recently saw some of them on social media and they look like they are doing great. They look genuinely happy. I would be lying if I said I'm happy for them. But I guess that's why they're up there and I'm still down here. I'm best friends with the guy the first used to bully. It's not an excuse. But for context, I was going through extreme family issues with my dad at the time. I was never a bully. But the situation made me very bitter. And I ended up being a bully for a time. It started out as the good "oh well, I'm just joking. Relax dude. and spiraled down into indisputable bullying. I would fuck with him. Fuck with his stuff. Say mean things. Thankfully I never got physical with him. Through all that, he was still genuinely pleasant to me. I guess one day after school, he noticed that I was walking to McDonald's instead of being picked up by my dad like usual, and he tagged along. He came up and asked why my dad wasn't picking me up this time. And I just lost my shit. I got emotional as hell. I was nearly crying in this man's arms. So we stopped halfway at the church, sat in the parking lot and talked. He listened to me. I cried some more. Some kids walked by. I joked that they were probably laughing at me for crying. He joked, fuck M. Ignore M. That's what I did when you were being an asshole. We laughed and I gave him the most heartfelt apology of my life. He gladly accepted it, and now I have a best friend to show for it. Also, my dad got the help he needed and continues to be an amazing father to this day. Just like how he was before his issues.
Subscribe, my brothers.